Welcome to another edition of The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. His real name is Cardale Jones. His nickname is Beanie Wells. I'm Dave Holmes. Great show to talk about. We're going to get to Indiana and what that means in the big picture of college football in a minute. But guys, let's start here in Columbus, Ohio State. January 20th, as we record this, still no offensive coordinator. And I know some fans are a little nervous, so I went back and checked. A couple years ago, they brought in Bill O'Brien on January 19th. The Heartline promotion was early February. So timeline might feel like it's going too slow for Buckeye fans, but what do you guys think has taken so long here as we're still waiting to find out who leads the offense?
Well, I think that we want to obviously wait until, the NFL season potentially was over, or a lot of teams that were out of the playoff to see if we can make a big splash there, or, just wait till the college football season as a whole is done. I mean, we know how coaches have been going through this whole transfer portal deal, and they want to figure out, what guys they can get and what guys they can help on their staff retain some of these players. So I think it's just a little bit of a waiting game and wait until seasons kind of come to a close officially before they evaluate which offensive coordinator they want to attack. I'll tell you one thing, though. If I'm Ryan Day, I'm calling a guy who was just the offensive coordinator, not this past season, but the one before he won a national championship, and that's Chip Kelly. We saw him go to Northwestern. Why can't we poach him from Northwestern?
Well, his Northwestern opportunity, I think, when I look at Chip Kelly and knowing him just from afar, he just want to coach ball. I don't think he's a guy that want to deal with too much NIL, too many portal things and all the moving parts. And I don't think you're going to have those hurdles at a place like Northwestern. Yeah, they're going to be competitive. I mean, they went into Happy Valley and beat Penn State. They're doing just enough things in the portal to stay competitive enough in the Big Ten to potentially give teams a scare each year, which they do. You look how tough they played Michigan last year. Like I said, a win versus Penn State in Happy Valley. And that's a team that I feel like the expectations aren't as high as some of the other teams in the Big Ten. So I think Chip Kelly is right where he want to be, just coaching ball, and whatever happens, happens. It's not like his life was on the line with the win or lose columns at places like that. But on the flip side, I think when you're talking about bringing in the right offensive coordinator for Ohio State, I think it got to be a guy that clearly Ryan trusts and believe that is going to continue to run something similar to what he's used to running, right? You don't want to throw so many new things at, your team, especially when you got a quarterback going into his second year of starting. You want to have as much similarities as possible so you don't slow down that growth and that learning curve for him. So I would imagine it's going to be a guy who speaks the same language as Ryan Day, hence why they had so much success with Chip Kelly, and then clearly with the Heartline situation as well, being an offensive coordinator. That's why Coach Day was able to take over the play calling, because they was basically speaking the same language.
Yeah, I agree with Beanie that they're waiting to see how this NFL thing shakes out. My two home run wishes were Brian Dable, and he's still in the mix for head coaching gigs. Todd Monken, now he's still in the mix for head coaching gigs and could even follow John Harbaugh to the New York Giants. So a couple of those might fall. All right, if you're watching on YouTube, I want you guys to watch Cardale Jones' face right now, because I'm going to throw a name out and I want to get your instant reaction.
Do it. Tom Herman.
JT Barrett.
No, I don't think it's right for him. JT's my guy. I was just up in Chicago last week at the game that they won versus the Packers in the playoffs, and an unbelievable run they went on and fell short this past weekend. But I don't think he, at this point in his career, wants to deal with everything that has to come with being a offensive coordinator or really a college coach. He had opportunities to come back and coach in college at Wisconsin and other opportunities the last couple of years before he took this opportunity to be the quarterback coach at the Chicago Bears. And I think with him continue to be with a guy like Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson under his leadership, his career is going to continue to go in a great direction. I think in the next couple of years, his name will be probably thrown around up in the NFL levels of potentially a coordinator there. I wouldn't say it's taking a step back to college, but you have to deal with so much more in college that you don't have to deal with NFL. And knowing his personality, he fits the NFL coaching tree to a T.
Interesting. Beanie, what do you think when I throw... The reason I throw Barrett out there is because I think what Cardale said is accurate. He's going to get an OC job soon.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a great reputation. He's a good dude. I mean, and he did great work with Caleb Williams this year. So do you think, he would be... Cardale says no. Do you see the fit at all?
Not at the college ranks right now.
Okay.
No, I mean, you see in the success that he's had right now at the National Football League level, first in Detroit, now going and being the first-year quarterback coach under Caleb Williams and him delivering Caleb Williams' best year he looks like a completely different quarterback. And I know if that continues, there's going to be a lot of talk with him being the offensive coordinator. And obviously we know the trajectory from there. But when you do it at the NFL level, you become accustomed to doing things that rate, at that pace. You're not having to deal with recruiting. You actually get an offseason at times. So I can't see him wanting to dip back into the college world unless it's a situation that makes the ultimate sense. And I'm talking about dollars and cents for that matter. But the schedule that you'd have to pit on at the college ranks compared to where he's at right now is night and day. And I can't see a young guy, he's still in his 20s, all of a sudden saying, you know what, let me go ahead and take this gig right here.
Yeah, no, 100% sure, man. You look at, I mean, not many people start their coaching career at the highest level of football. Let's start there. So it's like almost like, why would you take a step back, even though, I mean, it's apples to apples when you talk about places like Ohio State and coaching that in the National Football League. But like you said, Beanie, I view his relationship. I remember when he had the opportunity to coach either in the New York Jets as the quarterback coach when AG went there, because both of those guys were coordinators for the Lions or the Bears. And I'm like, man, why not take the Bears? And this was just conversation.
By the way, AG is Aaron Glenn, for those who don't speak Cardale football talk. Go ahead.
But I was like, why not take the Bears job, have an opportunity to develop and grow with a young, talented quarterback? I mean, this is a career guy. You can, I wouldn't say hang your career on this guy, but you can be the guy almost like a Tom Brady and the McDaniel situation where, you know, these guys grew together, and then at a point where McDaniel felt like, okay, I can go do this on my own, or Tom Brady felt like it worked out for both parties, you know? So that's the way I view this type of situation, this opportunity for him. But ultimately it's his decision. But in my personal opinion, if I was him, I wouldn't come back and coach in any university in college.
So with that being said, we just talked about coaches taking a step back from the NFL to going to college. There's some names out here that I'm very interested and intrigued by.
Okay, who you got?
You know, Matt Nagy, what's going on in that situation? You know, we just heard about you know, the Kansas City Chiefs potentially opening up their situation for the offensive coordinator gig. Then
I think they hired
Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, they hired him. I know they interviewed him.
They're talking to him.
Okay,
and then there's a situation. Obviously, we know Mike Daniels. We heard that conversation. No, sorry, Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels.
Then Mike McDaniels, obviously leaving South Florida. And then a name that I really like, and I know it might drive people crazy because you see him go from the Cowboys to the Eagles, and the Eagles offense was up and down. But I like Kellen Moore. Would one of those guys decide to leave the NFL to come to the Ohio State University, to where I think it's a little bit different this day and age, to where if you're pulling a guy from the NFL, I don't think Ryan Day is going to ask him to do as much as in terms of recruiting on the road, knowing where they come from.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And I think in those type of situations, when you have coordinators who are proven at that level, who can come back and it sounds so bad when you say take a step back and coach at Ohio State. Take a step down and coach in college is what I really mean. Those guys are always going to have opportunities in the NFL, right? I mean, you know, it's easy for them to dabble in this space and say, you know what, if it was good, it was great. If it's not, then I'm going to go back to the NFL because I know I can get a coordinator job up there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But whoever it is, clearly I hope it's the right fit for all parties involved and have a great experience coaching at Ohio State. But then ultimately you got to understand what you're dealing with too. You're dealing with, you know, two guys that is highly sought out that's going to be draft eligible this year with Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sain, and then Brandon Ennis and all the other guys as well. And then clearly you got to walk on eggshells because this is it's no longer a 4-year, 5-year scholarship. This is a year-to-year scholarship. So if things don't go as planned, now look at some of the young and upcoming stars that we have to retain, you know, this time next year if the offense isn't looking as prolific as they wanted to. So it's a lot of moving parts where Ryan Day have to really consider before bringing in the coordinator.
With where we are in this state of college football, where are we on locking up? We're talking about offensive coordinator. Where are we on locking up Matt Patricia? Because that would be a scary exit after we just saw him have a historic year at Ohio State.
Buddy, no news is good news. Every day that I wake up and my phone doesn't have 38 messages, I'm happy. That's my take.
But what is the situation? I'm not even 100% sure. Like locking him up. Like, didn't he sign a 2-year deal?
Yeah, just that he's not going to leave. Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard his name floated.
You better lock him up and give him even more.
If I'm him, I'm serving my next. Serving. I'm
serving time.
Exactly.
I'll serve time at that salary.
I'm playing.
I'll do 25 to life at that salary.
I'm playing my next year, and then clearly I think ultimately he want to be back in the NFL being a head coach, and I think it's going to be some more great jobs that's opening next year.
Yeah.
But guys like that, you know, are traditional ultimately want to be back at that level. So, I mean, how do you lock him up? I think, only thing you can hope for is he don't leave prematurely now and, clearly, expect that to happen next year.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about the JT Barrett side of it, that think about 10 years ago, if you would have said these guys don't want to coach college because they don't want to manage free agency and player salaries.
Yeah.
And isn't it funny now that the NFL has a more simplified player salary structure and free agency? It's nuts. All right, let's talk portal here because Beanie is a fan of what the Buckeyes are doing, if not at the micro level, at the macro level, because you're a fan of that. We're bringing in the geezers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You want your transfers to be Social Security ready. 100%. Tell me about your take here on the transfer portal.
I'm so ecstatic and to look and see that Ohio State is leading in the transfer portal at getting guys that are nice and ripe in age. So their average age is 21.8. So 21 years old, almost 22 years old in the portal. And I like that. I obviously, think that everybody should be trying to follow suit in the Indiana model. We just watched them go out and win a national championship. And what did they do? They had one of the oldest rosters in college football. And we know right now the narrative is changing to win now, not develop, win now. If you can go out and get guys that are ready-made, they don't have to be the 4- and 5-star guys any longer. We need guys that know how to be, quote unquote, professionals. Well, quote unquote, seasoned college football players. Yeah. So you go get those older guys that know what it takes to win, know what it's about in terms of preparation, and you add those guys to your roster.
Yeah, I love what they've done on defense. Offensive line still hasn't been addressed. Vishawn Washington, O-lineman from Dartmouth, I think is visiting later this week. Go ahead and get in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's you look at the way Ohio State lost, to the two teams who just played last night. It'll be 2 nights when this show drops, at the national championship in Miami, and Indiana. And the biggest thing and the concern was the way we looked up front versus those teams. And, the things we're doing in the portal so far, I think they're ranked top 5 class in the portal so far, but still haven't addressed some of the issues that, ultimately cut their season short. Now, when you really have a chance to reflect on their season, I know people want to say it's a disappointment. I think they still just came up short. I know Beanie was hot on the disappointment and embarrassment and things like that. But I think they just came up short. And I think they came up short because the 2 teams they lost to played for the national championship. But yeah, I would love to see them address the big guys up front, especially with losing a few of these guys through age and transfer portal. You got to find a way to fill those gaps. And I think, even if it's not through the portal of bringing in starters, you got to feel that way of bringing in the depth up front. And, unless they feel very confident about what they have, that's been developing over the last 2 years.
You know what? I'm changing my model. I'm changing my model to trust the process. And what I mean by that is, we get so enamored, right, with, the number 1 portal class, the 4- and 5-star guys, the guys that we were able to get transferred here. They were once upon a time 5-star individuals. I'm not with that any longer. I'm with trust the process and go and get guys that are seasoned, that you can develop and that fit, and that's going to elevate your culture. Because that's what we watch Indiana do. I don't think any one of these years we watched Indiana's portal class and say, oh, wow, they got the top 5 portal class. That wasn't the case. Yeah. They had a structure and a model how they evaluated their players that were going to work for them. And these were guys that they can get the best out of on a football field. I think that's the area in which Ohio State needs to go. Well, so trust the process.
You know what's funny? Because that's the process that I was through when I was at Ohio State. It wasn't an emphasis on let's get as many 5-star guys as we can. It wasn't an emphasis on let's make sure we had the number 1 recruiting class, the number 1 player each year. That shit does not matter. It's like, let me make sure we get the guys in here that fit our culture, our system, that we can develop. We was built on a lot of 3-star, 4, and then like the rankings of stars of these guys, like who are ranking these guys,
right?
Like
exactly.
And like it has been such an emphasis on the recruiting status of these 16, 17-year-old kids. Who I tell these guys in the recruiting process of NIL when I have an opportunity, like, dude, it's been more of you 5-star guys who did not pan out at this level than did. So wipe your ass with those stars and all that. That shit means nothing. And I look back on the players that we had who were probably overlooked or maybe just considered to be just a guy. Like you said, I think it's a process of getting the right guys into your system and getting the right guys into your program to install something that's ultimately going to help build the culture and a culture of winning.
This is a great segue, right? Because we got a guy on the list that we're about to talk about who was maybe 1-2-star guy and is an all-time great, not just at Ohio State, but in college football history.
Really? You want to go there with James?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Okay, so James Laurinaitis, all right, is now a college football Hall of Famer. He's one of only 8 3-time All-Americans at Ohio State. So your take here, this is your teammate, your former teammate, James.
And James, when he was coming in being recruited, he wasn't this all-world player. James was a guy that got into the system, worked his ass off, and developed into who he is today.
Nice.
And who he was on the football field. And you can go down the roster from the guys that I played with. Malcolm Jenkins, guy won the Thorpe. 2-star player. Was not a guy that was an all-world recruit. This was a diamond in the rough that turned out to be an all-time great in college football history. So again, trust our process. And I hope our coaching staff and, everybody over there at Ohio State that is evaluating talent is going back and starting to look and evaluate and say, let's go get these diamonds, not even diamonds in the rough. Let's go get these quality football players, these guys that know how to buy in and do things the right way and not just be enamored with the star power.
It wasn't as many of these bogus ass recruiting sites and analyst guys who telling you because they go to a 7-on-7 and see guys run around in t-shirt and panties and can catch a freaking football and say he's the number 1 player in the country. Oh, he's the number 1 2020. He's the number 1 2053 player in the country. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have so much of those things that's happening now that's I think is allowing the evaluation process to be lazy because now I can go to the sites and look at this and look at highlights on, we need this guy. Look, he can jump and he can catch this football and he can do this and he gets here and he, got like an arms curling across the middle or, only can throw in a clean pocket and can't play all. So it's a lot of those things that I think plays into the evaluation process that we're overlooking. And I got a crazy stat for guys when you talk about the evaluation process. It was a guy that we brought into the transfer portal last year. And he had these great numbers. The guy that we brought in, it was a lineman, and it's going to be easy to pick out from there. That his stats and what he did was all worldly. But then if you take a deeper dive into who he played against, I don't think he can block me. You know what I'm saying? So some of these things force you to be so lazy because you say, oh, this kid haven't gave up a sack in, 2 years.
Analytics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, you don't take a deeper dive into these things. And I think that's what's causing, and I'm just talking about Ohio State. I'm just talking about that's what's causing a lot of these recruitings and these universities to miss out on guys because one guy may have all the analytics and things like that, and you missing the diamond in the rough.
Yeah, a guy who stands out when you were describing that type of player is Will Kazmarek. Because if you ask Ryan Day, he was asked, who's kind of your unsung hero of this team? He said, I hate to pick one because I don't want to leave someone out, but he said, Will Kazmarek has done everything. Catch it, block it, been a good culture guy, and he comes out of OU, right? That's kind of what Beanie's saying. They bring in a guy this week, guys. Connor Hawkins. I buried the lead. We have a kicker. He's from Baylor. He's 3 for 4 from 50 plus. He has made a 54-yard field goal. That means once you're inside the 40, it's scoring time.
Right.
How about this? Is this as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be?
100%. 100%. When you go back and you look at Ohio State in big games, not just this season, but in past years, Ryan Day would be a 2-time national champion if he had a legitimate kicker. I'm check that.
Probably
3-time national champion. I would say this season, and then you go back into the year in which we lost to Georgia. Was that 22?
Yeah.
And that was 3 national championships.
They'd be playing football on Ryan Day Drive right now.
110%. And it's really crazy to break down. And for as much as grief as fans have given Ryan Day, and I've been a part of that group at one point in time as well, it's crazy to sit here and think this guy could legitimately have won 3 national championships. And it came down to a couple of plays, give or take.
Yeah. I don't think it's as big as a take as we trying to make it. I think, I think
no quarterback's going to make a kicker a big deal.
Yeah,
he want to humble us, bring us back to reality.
Exactly. The big take is this: is that they found the replacement kicker. How many big time situations Baylor has been in and asked their kicker to step up to the top? And I don't know. I don't know, but I would argue not many.
The lights are never as bright in Baylor as they are. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
That's true.
So, those situations of kicking those 50-yard field goals. And this is no knock on him at all, because I would love to see him compete at a high level. But, were there situations, like I said, go back to analytics, were those situations where it's like, hey, you ain't got nothing to lose. This is right before half. Just kick it. Let's see if we make it. Oh, he made it. Oh, great. We didn't think it was going to make it. Or is it those situations where like, 50-yard, we need to win this to tie this up. To put, like, those are the situations that came up and bite us in the butt at Ohio State. Not when we're up, and trying to kick a 50-yard field goal at half. So until these guys are into those high pressure situations, I take it back to this. The Bills and Broncos game when the guy made the interception on Brandon Cooks for the Bills. You guys saw that play this weekend?
Okay. Cooks was down, by the way.
I think it was okay, so first of all, I think it was an interception. And I said, I think that's one of the most impressive plays I've ever seen, because not just of the play he made, because of the situation.
Yeah.
That play means nothing if it happens in the first quarter.
True. Right.
That's good play. Not even thinking about it. You got a long game to go. So I want to see these guys perform when the lights are the brightest and the pressure is on, and this is literally win or lose. So that's where I kind of evaluate guys. And unfortunately, we don't know until the season pops off.
Well, a couple weeks ago, we'll finish the segment on this. Beanie Hot Takes Wells here was saying that they need to bring someone in to at least push Julian Saint, at least light a fire under him, someone to come. So they bring in Justin Martin from Maryland. Guys, I did a deep dive on film. He's here to hold the clipboard. I don't think he's here to push Tavion St. Clair. Is this what you had in mind, Beanie?
It's not what I had in mind, but it's okay. It's okay. And I just wonder, how much are they paying him to go? Yeah, you'd imagine, right? You'd imagine they get a guy at the portal, they're paying him to come in.
Free roosters.
What's the price?
Free roosters.
You guys about to leave my quarterbacks alone. First and foremost, I had an opportunity to meet Justin Martin out when he was at UCLA. Ted White was his quarterback coach out there. And then both of them went over to Maryland last year this time. And he was expected to compete for the starting spot, and that didn't go his way. But the talent is there. But do I think he's in to a guy that's going to push Julian Saint to be, greater? I think it's an uphill battle for him in that position, but I do think him and Tavion can definitely push each other. Both are big, strong, physical guys. Both can do a lot of things outside the pocket. So both of those guys, I think, did be interesting spot for the backup spot going into the season.
Yeah,
I asked you this, Cardale, before the show, and I want to ask on air, just so the viewers can, my mind is always going, and I'm always asking crazy stuff.
I love it. I love it.
But when we look at Tavion St. Clair, right, we all know he's an amazing talent. And obviously, you having to wait your turn essentially here at Ohio State behind Julian Saint. Is there any worry or concern for you too, Dave, that, when we got a guy like Tavion, that he might vote for greener pastures because he wants to play right now?
Zero. I mean, for one, you can't. The portal's closed. But let's start there. There's no more portal window.
That's why we brought it up now. We don't want to give him any bad ideas.
No, I don't think it's a concern there, because the few times I've been around St. Clair, very humble. I think he's very self-aware of the things he needs to work on to compete at a high level. Clearly, he's seen a guy in his room just was in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. And that's always great when you see another guy that's so close to you, and not just age, but in a lot of things that you guys do very similar, that having the success that you want. And it helps you to compare yourself to that guy and say, you know what? I need to be more like that. How do I continue to get closer and closer and close that gap? But you look at the sitting and wait model, I think it's still the greatest model. You look at what Dylan Raiola just did.
Yeah.
Right. He just went to Oregon to sit a year behind Moore. I don't know if he knew Moore was going to be back or not.
That's the big question.
But if he did or didn't, he still had opportunity. Like, okay, well, this ain't for me. I'm out of here. But you look what Moore did with Dylan Gabriel. Same thing. Started some games at UCLA and went to sit and develop and really learn the game. And now we see what he did in his first year. He's going to be projected the number 2, pick or the second quarterback taken off the board. So it's still room in college football for the developmental side of these players who have all the talent, who may need an extra year or two just to sit and develop mentally, so when they hit the ground running.
Football question. Is Moore making a mistake by going back to college?
No, not at all.
$30 million guaranteed?
Not at all. Not at all.
See, I think he is. I think he is, because I think next year's quarterback class has way more competition. I think he was slotted into the number 2 spot this year after Mendoza. We'll talk about Fernando next block. Cardale's got some scorch takes there. But I think he made a mistake by coming back. But you disagree.
I totally disagree because he's not. He may be costing if he don't go top 5 pick next year. He may what he's going to make over college from last year to this year. I think it'll only be, dude. It's going to be maybe a 10 to 15, at worst, $15 million difference. Because of the money he's going to make at Oregon.
$15 million.
Take a 3 shot.
Exactly.
Take a 3 shot, Mr. Director. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Only how much money do you have?
Well,
I'm $15 million. This guy.
Well, I'm just saying that's going to be his situation. I can only imagine the money he got back to return to Oregon. I can only imagine the money he got to transfer there.
Probably wild.
To retain there last year and now to retain again after the numbers and the things he put up this year. And then guess what? Oregon is going to be healthy next year.
Mm-hmm.
If things go, I don't think he made a mistake at all with some of the things that he's going to be granted and the opportunities going to be granted on and off the field. Yes, this class is a lot deeper next year in the draft, but I'm still, what guy are you really saying I'm going to take over him just because, who throws a better ball? Who gets it done out of the pocket better than him? You can say just as good, but I don't think none of these guys are just going to say, oh, he's so much better than you should have left last year.
So you just think it's a bet on himself that you think is a smart bet?
100%. And then, I'm sorry, another year to develop other than Dan Lanning in that offense, in that system, even though they just lost their offensive coordinator to Kentucky, getting paid to play again and at the highest level, and their schedule isn't as brutal again next year. I'm taking my chances with that versus going to the New York Jets, with all due respect.
That's crazy. I just know at the next level, the NFL teams, when you get to a certain point, right, when you come back, it doesn't always work out. They always start to overanalyze and over dissect you, and they think of ways why they shouldn't draft you in the top 10.
That's my theory. You look at a Matt Leinart who kind of slid 10 or 12 picks, or a Teddy Bridgewater who ended up going, last pick of round 1, first pick of round 2, something every now and then. All right, we'll see.
A guy, James Laurinaitis, who we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
James was going to come out his junior year. He was slated to be a top 5 pick. What did they do? They overanalyzed him his senior year, and he was going to the second round, still ended up having a great NFL career.
Rams loved him. Yeah.
But the money out the gate was significantly different.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot to talk about here on the Scripted Podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Indiana, the legacy, and what it means. Coming up. College football not feeling as juicy as it once did. Well, let me put you onto something that'll shake up your Saturday and every other day of the week. Because now that Wendy's has crispy chicken tendies and a powerhouse lineup of new sauces, it's time you transfer to the hottest team in the league.
That's right. Team Tendies. Wendy's Tendies, they're making their undeniable rookie season one for the books. Enjoy first-string flavor from some 5-star recruits. Rep your new favorite team everywhere you go, but make sure you cheer with your mouth closed.
Take it to the end zone of savory sauces like honey barbecue, creamy ranch, and that new Wendy's signature sauce to experience a total taste bud blitz of flavor. It's time to join the team that won't upset you with an upset.
Taste the phenom that's gracing the gridiron with its juicy, crispy, and tendery tendencies. Don't fumble the bag. Commit to Team Tendies and call the most delicious plays in the playbook. All right, huddle up. Tendies on 3. Tendies on 3. 1, 2, 3, Tendies. Let's do this. Wendy's Chicken Tendies now at participating U.S. Wendy's.
For Buckeyes and businesses, Branded Bills has you covered. Whether you're showing your scarlet and gray pride or you're building a brand of your own, nothing tops a custom hat.
Branded Bills is a proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics with licensed Buckeye headgear that looks just as good in the horseshoe as it does when you're walking around Columbus. And beyond game day, they specialize in custom headwear that helps businesses, teams, and communities stand out with premium fit, finish, and style.
So whether you are a diehard Buckeye, an entrepreneur, or just someone who want to rep their story, check out Branded Bills. Explore their official licensed Ohio State collection or design your own custom hat built just for you. Branded Bills for Buckeyes and businesses, licensed pride, custom style.
Welcome back to The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Hit us up on social at TheScriptOSU. And if you're watching on YouTube, that's by far the best version. Click that subscribe button right now. Time now, guys, for a Dr. Pepper look around the world of college football. Indiana, national champions, just like I predicted a few years ago. 27-21. This is crazy, guys. Let's talk about a few of the key plays in the game. And for me, when we look back on this season, that fourth quarter run by Fernando Mendoza, where he put his body on the line 2 or 3 times, that is an all-time college football play.
No question. That is like a Heisman Trophy play. Even though it was in a national championship, you could sit there and say, oh, wow, that's a Heisman moment after already winning the Heisman.
A retroactive Heisman moment.
Exactly. That was crazy. I mean, in a situation, one, the ballsy call by Kurt Signetti to call a timeout after you throw your field goal team out there and say, you know what, we're going to run it on 4th and 5, a quarterback draw. And looking at the way that Miami's defense was getting after the passer, stuffing the run, and for them to be in position to make the tackle, and Fernando to be able to zigzag his way across, like you said, put his body on the line and score in that moment. Crazy play, crazy call, crazy everything. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah, Kurt Signetti is the best coach in all of college football. And I think he proved it this year by going out and beating Ryan Day, Dan Lenny, and the things he did in the playoffs versus Alabama and then clearly the national championship, last night. This team was real deal. And the Fernando Mendoza, I mean, the heart that he has, the grit that he plays with, you don't usually see that from the quarterback position as consistent as he plays, and some of the big hits he has taken throughout that game, especially from that vicious front four of the Hurricanes. But man, that was a great game, and hats off to Indiana for winning their first national championship.
Yeah, it was an incredible game. I mean, and like you said, I mean, he took some crazy hits, and I don't know what the hell was going on with the referees in that game, but they were letting some things go by. Yeah. Not only the hits on Fernando Mendoza, but there was a lot of pass interference calls that should have been PIs versus Miami and versus Indiana for that matter, and they were literally letting them play. And I always think it's a fine line between letting them play and calling the right calls. And, the refereeing was a little bit, short-sighted in this football game. But a question I got for both of you guys, and it very well may be a hot take. And no, I'm not even going to say it's a hot take because I'm going to get your opinion.
Beanie hot takes? Let's go.
Is Kurt Signetti one of the greatest coaches? No, not even one of the greatest coaches. I think if you win a national championship, you have to be considered one of the greatest coaches.
Yeah.
Is he a top 10 coach of all time in college football, only after 2 major college football seasons?
So let me say this. Here's the way I look at Kurt Signetti. In our last segment, you talked about finding guys who are great football players but might not have 4 or 5 stars attached to their name. All right, little story. When I went to Kent State, all right, as a broadcast journalism major, there were other schools I could have gone to that, if we're being honest, were better schools. And I remember someone said to me, why would you go to Kent State if you could go to a better school? And I said, because I think they will find talent anywhere. And if you're good, they'll find talent anywhere. That's the Kurt Signetti story. The players we're talking about that he brought in, he's that guy too. And sometimes the best football coaches are hiding where you least expect them. At James Madison, you never know. So yeah, I think he's an all-timer right now. Of course, Saban's resume stands alone. Right. Like, of course, historically, some people have 30 years behind them. But I mean, yeah, I think Kurt Signetti, what he's done is as impressive as what any coach has ever done.
He's a top 10er right now.
I think he's a top 10er right now.
That's tough. You guys know how I am when you're talking about basically catching lightning in a bottle. I like the longevity of careers.
And Cardale just like to humble us. Bring us back to reality. That's what that
is. Every time we try to have an interesting podcast, he hates clicks. This guy hates clicks.
I think he's the best coach of college football right now for sure. But like I said, I got to err on the side of the longevity. I can't name off the top of my head 10 coaches right now historically has been better than him. But I think if he keeps this run up with Indiana over the length of his contract, yes, he will be considered one of the best coaches of all time. Definitely top 10, probably even in the top 5 slot, especially if he can continue to steer this ship and continue to have any success as he's been having the last 2 years. And I'm talking about playoff rounds and national championships. Even if he don't win another national championship, if he keep Indiana in the playoffs through his length of his career, because I don't see him coaching past the length of this, his I think it's an 8-year or 10-year deal. I mean, he's going to be up there in age and go enjoy some of that money. He got to be considered as a top 5 in my book.
And that's fair. I guess we're saying similar things in that he doesn't deserve to be listed top 10 right now because he has it's kind of like Michael Jordan was an all-time basketball player in 1990. 5 years in before he won an NBA title. It's like we just didn't know it yet.
Exactly.
That's kind of where I am with Cignetti. I think he's a top 10 coach all time. He just needs to prove it over a little bit longer time.
Exactly, because that's like we can have that conversation. It's so, what have you done for me lately? If Marcus Freeman beats Ohio State last year in a national championship game and they lose in the playoffs this year, are we having the same conversation?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With him, basically being thrust in the situation of when Brian Kelly left the way he did, and 2 years later they was in a national championship game, and we're going to get to national championship odds here soon. But I like the longevity of the careers. Like last year this time I couldn't put Jeremiah Smith in my top 5 all-time receivers at Ohio State. But we all know he's going to be one.
We know he's going to be
at some point.
So he's on that trajectory is the best way I can put with Kurt Signetti.
Yeah, Carter, it's me you're talking to, so I'm going to say yes, he's in the top 10 right now. You know how I am.
All that shit sounds good, but he's top 10 right now.
I am a prisoner of the moment.
I love it.
and I'm looking at what I just saw, and absolutely. I mean, for him to take a program out of the ashes.
The losingest program ever.
Yes. I mean, the losingest program ever. And to take him and get him in his first season in the college football playoff, and they make a nice run. They have a great regular season. And then the second year, going through a gauntlet, and I don't care what anybody say, you beat perennial powers in Oregon, you slaughtered them. Alabama, you slaughtered them.
Ohio State, go back to
Ohio State, you waxed them.
Yeah.
And then in this national championship game where the U was supposedly back, you went and shut up everybody in South Florida
in their building.
In their home.
In their building.
Yeah, you're a top 10.
So shout out to Beanie, by the way, because if you guys listened last week when we talked about this game, Beanie said 2 things he thought this game could come down to. Penalties, and it did. Miami had some bad third down penalties, and special teams, the punt block touchdown. I mean, those are 2 things you pointed out last week, kind of the Cignetti intangibles actually matter.
I mean, the punt block was incredible. And obviously, we all know in big moments when you got those great coaches, it's always, even you go back to Kirby Smart, he always seems to make the right decision in terms of special teams calls, and that ends up leading to them winning the big games. Same with Kurt Signetti. They figure out a way to, win these games by special teams and obviously other things, but special teams is a huge component. I got another wild question. And I don't even know if it's that wild, right? But I really want you guys' opinion. I'm always got some is this
Beanie, if you want to host the show, I'll show you what it pays. You can host the show, my man.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead,
I'm just always asking, is this the greatest story in all of sports?
Well,
I think it's the greatest turnaround. I don't know about story overall, but this is by far the greatest turnaround. And I think I love, and we talked about this earlier, the storylines that follow great teams and great players. And that's why, you guys know who I voted for the Heisman Trophy, but I said realistically who was going to win this thing was Fernando Mendoza because of the storyline that follows him in Indiana. And then I think clearly my vote was wrong because I think throughout the playoffs, he proved that he was a Heisman Trophy winner, even though the numbers probably didn't show, but the way he has played definitely showed up in the biggest moments of college football this season. So the story, the turnaround, the Kurt Signetti journey to how he found himself at Indiana, and the way how he arrived on the scene talking about something, you don't know me, Google me, all I do is win. I think it is the greatest turnaround and a borderline story as well of college football.
Yeah, it's the greatest turnaround. I think it's probably the greatest underdog story. Now, there are so many good emotional stories that I've witnessed over my life, and I'm thinking about like the Olympic runner whose dad carried him across the finish line. Like there are like moments that I still think about to this day. So story is a very broad term. But the greatest turnaround, yeah, it is. You've never seen someone going from the all-time worst to now a debate of were they the all-time best team in college football. I'm not sure if I'm there that they're the all-time best, but as we said, they're the best of the generation. They're the best, I've said, since probably Burrow's LSU team. So, yeah, I think it's the best turnaround or underdog story we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's got me thinking, too. It definitely got me thinking about, all the other great stories out there. Obviously, we think about, the 1980 hockey situation.
Yeah, Miracle on Ice.
Miracle on Ice.
Yeah.
Then you got to go Cubs 2016. That was a crazy deal.
Easy. Beat my Indians.
Yeah, I know they beat the Indians. But the Cubs were a program to where, they weren't winning. And then you got to go Cavs 2016 as well. So, I mean, they're right up there with some of the all-time greatest sports stories, and because of the fact that they were one of the worst
That's the
ever.
thing. Yeah,
That's what puts them over
the
them.
Cubs still had a big payroll, and the Cavs had LeBron. Like, this is the ultimate underdog.
Yeah, exactly. You talk about where the season started for both those organizations. Clearly, whatever team LeBron is on, he was favored to come out the East and, just get to the big dance, and we'll see what happened. Indiana odds to win a national championship they have the worst odds ever for a team to win a national championship. So, like I said, I do love the storyline of it. But it's been some great stories in sports. But, clearly over the last 10 years, the best storyline of all the sports. This turnaround has been unbelievable. It needs to be studied at a high level.
We'll get to the odds for next year here in just a minute. But first, Cardale. This is our man of reason. I'm about to turn him loose because he's about to scorch a takeout here. The Raiders are on the clock. Number 1 pick. Dante Moore's back in school. Anyone with 10% of a brain is saying they're going to take Fernando Mendoza. You're on the clock as the GM of the Raiders. What do you do?
I am trading out that pick. And it's no knock on Fernando Mendoza, but if I'm taking a number 1 pick, I don't want to take a number 1 pick by default. I think this quarterback draft class is extremely weak compared to what it's going to be next year. And I'm trading out that pick to develop capital because next year I can legitimately have more options to pick for a franchise guy. Not saying Fernando Mendoza can't be a franchise guy, but I have more options. I have more guys I can evaluate, and I can see them for a whole nother year versus one guy catching. I wouldn't say he caught lightning in a bottle, but versus one large body of work in 1 year at Indiana and play something against the best teams. I got guys like Arch Manning. I got guys like Dante Moore, DJ Lagway, Lenore Sellers, Julian Sayin potentially. And the list goes on. Nussmeier, who just transferred to UCL, to Oklahoma State. Byron Brown, who just transferred to Auburn. I got an opportunity to see a lot of these guys now on bigger levels as well, who've taken that jump from the Indian transfer portal. So I'm trading out that pick to get more capital or more moving parts to potentially find my guy next year.
See, the only thing he's overlooking, Beanie, is you're going to drop a 21-year-old with $30 million into Las Vegas. And Mendoza might be the only guy on earth not tempted to take him to Las Vegas. The only guy who's going to sit in his room and study with $30 million in Las Vegas at age 21.
Honestly, that's a good point. I think you got to weigh the options of, that's another year evaluate how they're going to respond with $30 million. Because if a guy, honestly, let's be honest, all these guys I just named are and then another guy, Swarsby, I don't think he's going to be number 1 pick, but he's going to be another guy you can evaluate at Texas Tech. But all of these guys I just named is guaranteed walking into the NFL in some way, somehow. Some of these guys will take a pay cut.
Right, for sure.
So they all walking into the NFL, and if you got $10 million in your pocket or 30, at a certain point, it's the same shit. So if you're being responsible with 10, I feel like I can trust you with 30.
I guess that is a good point right there. If these guys are already getting paid, they're going to know what it's like to actually have money already.
That's true.
So, and have these people around. They got advisors and all this shit around them already. So
that's one thing that's great. We're not going to run into a bunch of situations to where guys first time getting money at this level and they're going to go crazy. They
not know how they respond. So
it's funny. Urban Meyer once told me that when NFL scouts would talk to him about Ohio State players, that was one of the questions that they would always ask was, how would money change him, or how do you think they would handle it? It was always a major concern for them. All right, let's run down these odds. Ohio State is winning another championship in the odds. Didn't matter this year, but the Buckeyes are plus 650. Indiana 7-1, Notre Dame 7-1, Texas 8.5-1, Oregon 9-1, Georgia, LSU, and then you're kind of off the board at that point. You guys all right with the Buckeyes being favorites again? Not that it matters, but are you okay with them being favorites again?
No, I'm not. I think the way we saw them lose from in the trenches and the lack of moving power that's happened in the portal so far is just like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it was broke, so we haven't fixed it still.
That's my take on it.
Yeah. I like Notre Dame, and I respect their odds of winning a national championship. I think the first time in a long time they have an elite quarterback in CJ Carr, and now you can tell and see the investment they put around him by going and get Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter. Something that they were lacking consistently on the playmaker side of the ball is pushing the ball downfield, because we know you had Love and Price is back. Jadarian Price is just as productive at Jeremiah Love at the running back position, and then they was able to retain some of the key pieces on defense, and then also adding guys like Keon Keeley, who was originally committed to Notre Dame out of high school, went down to Alabama for a few years, and hopefully developed to everything that Marcus Freeman need on the line up front. So I love Notre Dame odds, and actually, we talking about a betting man here. I'm sprinkling some on Notre Dame, because I think they're going to get in a great position by not having a conference championship game. They're going to run the table, maybe even drop one game, but they're going to put themselves in a position to be in a very favorable route to the national championship.
Look, if I'm just going solely on evaluation and just looking at Ohio State and looking at the model, I'm okay with it. You know, you go back and you look at the year prior to after they won a national championship.
I got something for you, right?
They lost what was it, 8 starters on the defensive side, and these people had Ohio State right up there to be back in the thick of things, and they absolutely were with all the missing pieces to that puzzle from the previous year.
Yeah,
and we lose a lot of guys again this year, and for whatever reason, I'm following suit with these guys' motto. They believe it, so I'm believing in them and the way that they evaluate Ohio State and saying that Ohio State is going to replace those players that we lost, that we were going to lose on the defensive side and on the offensive end. The only thing that I really think worries me is the schedule that we have to go through.
That's what I just said, the gauntlet.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough one.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying as well. And then, let's say they get through the regular season, they 10-2, right? And don't appear in the Big Ten championship game. That also can set them up for a very favorable route to the national championship as well. But they have a very rigorous schedule when you're talking about not just the home schedule, but the road as well. I think they go to IU.
So what's funny is I just got a text in the middle of the show. This will be public information by tomorrow, but I just got a text right now. October 17th, the Buckeyes will play in Bloomington. October 17th, so right in the middle of the season, a road trip to Bloomington at USC. They at Iowa as well.
I think so.
Yeah,
but they, no matter what they play some tough teams.
Yeah.
They play everybody. They play all the big dogs in the Big Ten, but Penn State next year. And if things go their way, both teams' way, they can still face each other in a Big Ten championship game. So tough schedule. I am shocked to see they have the best odds to win it. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Cardale on this in that we saw how good defense and good playmakers on offense, what it meant. And it wasn't enough. And they haven't addressed the weakness. Now, our boy Connor Hawkins is here to kick them, to kick some kicks. But no, that's the big question mark with Ohio State. Coming up next, we're actually going to try to fix a former Buckeye, CJ Stroud, nightmare performance in the AFC divisional round. We're going to fix his game coming up next. Welcome back to The Script. Make sure you hit us up at The Script OSU. We are on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Time now for our Buckeye Basement Solution, where we diagnose a problem and fix it. And guys, CJ Stroud has a problem. And I understand it is not popular in this town to take any shots at any former quarterbacks, especially you, Cardinal, especially you. But in this game, CJ Stroud looked awful. 20 for 47, 1 touchdown, 4 picks. Now, I could pick this apart, right? He was the rookie of the year, first year, and now back-to-back underwhelming years. And I can make all sorts of excuses and say, Tank Dell was hurt. Last year, they brought in Steph Diggs to be a number 1, and he got hurt. And the offensive line has been bottom 5 for years, and Joe Mixon suddenly went away with some random injury that we don't really know what it was. A lot of things against him. Nico Collins getting banged up. And yet, he's throwing jump balls in the AFC divisional round, just throwing balls up to the sky and hoping someone catches it. So, Cardale, you're my QB. I'll start with you. How do you fix this, and do you think CJ Stroud can get this back on track?
Yeah, I think because, the talent is there clearly. One thing I will love to see with the CJ Stroud career at this point, and sometimes a change of scenery, it may not be a hot take, is what the doctor ordered.
Yeah.
I look at a guy like CJ Stroud, look at a guy like Kyler Murray, 2 guys with all the talent in the world, for whatever reason, is just not going their way at their current situations and clubs. Why not swap these guys? Send Kyler Murray back home to Texas, reunite CJ Stroud with Marvin Harrison Jr., Clearly, both offenses are going to change dramatically because of the different styles of play for these quarterbacks, and it may be what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, I actually like that a lot.
Yeah, I do like that, but I'm more of my mic. How's my mic? Here we go. Yeah, I'm more of the thought process of sit your ass in the house. You're in Houston. It's a hard place, right? I mean, there's a lot going on, a lot of nightlife, a lot of distractions.
But he's not that kid.
All right, whatever. Sit your ass in the house. You better figure it out because you are a great talent. You're in a great situation. Yeah. We came out and we saw DeMeco Ryans come out and give him that bolt of confidence. He's our guy for the future. You need to zero in and focus on what you need to be better at. And we can sit here and say he's not that type of guy, but Houston has a way of drawing you out of the house and making you entrenched in the culture and nightlife there in that city. Nah, chill out, sit back, relax, zero in, and do what got you to the point that you were a first-round draft pick at the quarterback position, and you were a guy to lead the Houston Texans to the playoffs your first couple of years in the National Football League.
3 straight years?
Yeah, 3 straight years. Go back to the basics because it wasn't just this game. It was the past 2 games in the playoff where we saw CJ Stroud not look like the CJ Stroud of old.
Yeah.
You got to come back to reality and sometimes dial it back. And this isn't a shot at him. This is just a dose of reality. Go back to the drawing board. Go back to what made you motivated. Go back to what made you great. It's in you because we've all seen it before. Now it's time to, take a step back and say, hey, you know what? Maybe it is time for me to, sit my ass down and really hone in on my craft and not just be enamored with being an NFL quarterback, but be one of the all-time greats, which I know I can be.
First off, what happened that weekend you were in Houston?
Right,
because it sounds
sounds
like there's some stories.
What did Houston do to you?
Yeah.
Because when Houston grabs you, it don't let you go.
You get into that seedy nightlife that Houston has. You go down Monroe Street at night at 3 a.m, and the next thing,
right, you wake up at 3 a.m. be up.
Look, Houston is a different animal.
And you wake up in San Antonio. So,
right,
all right, so Beanie's got demons that we can't talk about in Houston. But I think Beanie's point is great there in that, look, we saw what he was. We saw that he was a Heisman caliber player at Ohio State. We saw he was a rookie of the year who was unbelievable his first year. So, Cardale, the talent is in there. Some of the things I mentioned, the receivers have fallen apart. The O-line has not helped him. But he's also won a playoff game 3 straight years. And if you look at the list of guys who've done that, it is very short. I think Russ Wilson did it, maybe Flacco. I mean, it's a very short list of guys. So he's still winning. And I know some people, the haters, are going to say it's because of his defense. But we've seen enough. He can do it. Like you said, either a change of coordinator or more talent around or whatever. And I do think, though, what Beanie's saying is you have to take personal responsibility. When Davis Mills comes in and looks every bit as good or if not better than you, that's a problem. So you got to take some of it on yourself. Yeah.
No, 100%. But then again, and too, you got to understand, like, when there's more tape of you out there, guys can clearly prepare for you better. So I know some self-evaluation probably needs to happen as he continues to further his career and extend his professional career. But, I personally have no doubt that he can get it back on track and play at the highest level that he potentially can play at. But it's unfortunate when we seen your highs and then, like, we thought we saw your lows and then just dip a little bit lower than that, because the week before in Pittsburgh, I did think it was a bad game on his behalf. And defense, I think defense had 2 touchdowns that week.
Yeah, they bailed him out.
And then, you was anticipating a big bounce back game. And, clearly that floor got a little bit lower, playing up in New England. So, that's the frustrating part, I think, when we as fans and supporters of just our favorite athletes or former players or guys that, we grew up watching is that, we saw them do it at a high level. It's like, why can't you do that every time? You know what I'm saying? So, but, I do think a change of scenery wouldn't be bad.
Yeah. Well, again, this was brought to you by Buckeye Basement Solutions. If your damp or wet basement needs a quality solution by a local company, make sure you get a hold of Buckeye Basement Solutions. Our owner there, Brian Mastroianni, is the man. Get a hold of him, 614-956-4592. Today's show is also brought to you by the Houston Board of Tourism, who says, please come to Houston and let our city grab a hold of you.
Never let you go. Never let you go.
Never let you go. Hey, that'll do it for us on The Scripted Podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Hit us up at The Script OSU. We're everywhere on social. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.